Welcome, everyone. I am so excited. I'm Shawna Murph, and this is our side by side Sunday, and you are in for a treat. We have Tonya Wirfs here, and I don't know if any of you have followed her in the past, either for some of her social um, influencer experiences or just she's a lovely lady, but she's got quite a story she's going to share with us, and we're excited that she's joining us. Welcome to everyone. We're going to start by providing a little video of Tonya. So I'll go ahead and share my screen.
I thought I was defeated. Watch my dreams turn to flames. Deep down, I'm a phoenix. I will rise from the flames. When it feels like I'm stuck in a cage, oh, that ceiling won't break. When I feel my dreams slipping away, I heard a voice say, keep going, have faith. You can do more than you think. Keep going, have faith. You're stronger than you think. Keep going, have faith. In my darkest moments, I find light within my soul. And my heart keeps glowing, showing me the way.
Isn't she adorable? She is just adorable. I just love this woman. So we were going to share each other's story on how we met. And I'm curious to see what her version is, and she's probably curious to see what my version is. But here's what I remember about meeting Tonya for the first time. So it seems to me like it was around late spring of 2022, and she was on an accountability call. And I knew she was a Latter-day Saint. I don't know why, and I don't know exactly how, but I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, if you are looking for, maybe it was something she said in the accountability call, about needing more support or needing someone that was like ahead of her in her journey." So I messengered her, and I said, "Hey, if you are looking for, some support, I'm here." And then we just kind of touch base every now and then. And then I remember made it was on Thanksgiving. Do you remember? It was your first Thanksgiving in November of 2022. Do you remember this? And you were so sad. You were so, and you posted something in Facebook about my first bright Thanksgiving, and I just don't think I can do it. And you were just, and so anyway, and is this like your fourth bright Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Wow! Yay!
Yeah.
Yay! And we've just touched base and supported one another, and I've just loved on her, and she's just an amazing person. So, okay, what version of our
Okay, so I remember I was in the boot camp and it was just like all of a sudden I was like, okay, I don't know what to do, but it felt like I was, landing the plane. I was going into maintenance, and that's when I reached out on the accountability call. And it was the morning one, and so I hadn't even gotten ready. I felt like such a mess. And you reached out to me, and there were like two or three other people that reached out to me, but you were like, I could just see your light. Like I knew you were a member of the church, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
And then we've been mostly Marco Poloing. We actually hadn't actually talked like live on the phone or anything until we did the Zoom a couple weeks ago to get ready for today. And so you've definitely supported me more than I have you. You've been a lifeline for me. It's been huge to have you. Like anytime I need to change my food, like I don't remember that Thanksgiving. That's so funny you mentioned that. I don't remember being having that hard of a time with it. Um, but that's so interesting that you remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, you were really grieving. You go back. You'll find it.
Okay.
It was it was the Thanksgiving of 2022.
Okay.
So, anyway, okay, that's so fun. So we weren't too far off. That's
No.
awesome. Okay, Tonya, share a little bit about yourself. We'd love to hear
Okay.
about you.
So I'm 44 years old. I live in the Kansas City, Missouri area. I have five kids. They range from 25 down to 11. And then I'm remarried, and so my husband is Scott, and he also has five kids. They're all grown except for his youngest son is grown. He's on his mission in Arizona for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we live here, and I have my own business. I have a wellness business. I love helping moms be able to relieve stress and take care of their families with natural solutions. And it's that's what I do most of the time, take care of my family. I really like being able to be available for them so that I can go to all of their activities and things like that. I love that stuff. Like my second youngest daughter is in marching band, and we just finished her freshman season, and it was amazing. Like I understand now why people like professional sports so much. Because I'm like, I would not miss any of it. It just lights me up. It's so fun.
That is so fun.
Yeah.
Another thing that you didn't touch are the founder of the 5 Minute Habits
Oh
for
yes, yeah.
Mom.
I have a podcast called 5 Minute Habits for Mom. I started that in 2023, and I'm getting ready to bring my Facebook group back to life in conjunction with the podcast, so that there's some more support from the things I teach on the podcast. And so I love being able to help break things down small, because that's one of the things that got me in trouble for so many years, is that I would try to meet this really big goal, and I was so focused on meeting the goal and going big or going home, and usually I'd end up falling flat on my face and not getting anywhere. And it wasn't until like I started doing the small simple things little by little that my life has really started moving and changing, and I've been able to create with God the things I want to be able to create.
Yeah, they're really good too. And another thing that surprised me that I didn't know about you is that you're a doula, which is
Yes.
so fun.
Yes. Yeah. So right now I'm not doing births. I'm doing more postpartum support, but I really love supporting moms in that process. I think we have this tendency to uh, take care of the kids first and put ourselves last. And that got me in trouble. Like that's what really started changing things for me about 13 years ago, is when I realized, okay, I have to make myself a priority too. And this is not working, me only doing everything for the kids all the time. I was a mess. So I love being able to walk beside moms like as their doula and help them learn, especially if it's like a new mom, like they can start out from the beginning, with some support
Mhm.
and learn to take
There,
care of themselves alongside baby, then they're going to be in so much better shape.
mm, there is such a need for that.
Yeah.
Such a need for that. Okay, before we get into our Brightline eating story, I say ours because I feel like I'm, in the front
Do
seat.
what you have been.
Um, I would love for you to share your backstory.
Okay.
because it is really quite an inspiration.
Okay. I would love to. So I I grew up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but my dad was a member. My mom stopped going to church when I was about 3 years old, and so I was mostly with my mom. I would get to go with my dad like over, on Christmas break and holidays, and so I was mostly, I knew I was baptized when I was 8, and but I wasn't involved on a regular basis in church. And so when I was about 13, my dad moved back to Kansas City. He had lived out in California. And I really had a lot of turbulent years in my I was pretty rebellious as a youth and got into a lot of trouble and myself into a lot of bad situations. But I did have one highlight. Like my freshman year, I lived with my dad, and that's where my testimony of Christ really grew and strengthened. And then I ended up going to live back with my mom and back in the same group of friends. Ended up getting pregnant when I was 18 years old, had my first daughter like 2 weeks before my 19th birthday. And then, ended up I married her dad. That didn't work out very well. We were not a good fit. And then got remarried and started going back to church when I was 22, got remarried. And honestly, it was always really hard. We were married for about 13 years. We had 4 kids together. But I was always solid in church, but I dealt with a lot of depression and I was really, really struggling for a long time. And then in 2013 is when I really, excuse, yeah, 2012 is when I really started making changes in my life, like I was mentioning earlier. And that's when I started my wellness business, my doTERRA business. And that's what helped me come alive because I couldn't go teach essential oils classes in my pajamas. I had to like get up and put myself together. And that helped me on this journey of growth. That was the beginning of that, of saying, okay, I'm going to take care of myself and do the things that I know God's calling me to do. But then in 2016, we ended up, there's a long story there. I won't go into it. If you want to know more, I'd be happy to share it. And I did do an interview on Latter-day Lights. You can just search Latter-day Lights, Tonya Wirfs, and you can hear my whole story of leaving the church and coming back. But I ended up, because of some things that I had been into, like energy work and stuff, new age stuff, my testimony had really weakened of in Christ and in the gospel. And I was relying on those other things. And so in 2016, some things happened in my marriage. We ended up leaving church. I left church, and so of course everybody else left with me. And those were some really hard years. I thought they were great at the time, but I look back and see how hard they were. And then in um, 2019 is when I came back to church. And that's when things really started changing for me, was in 2019 when I came back. And that was, I would say 2020, well, off and on, like with my bright journey, I'd always struggled with my weight. I don't know if you want to go there now or you want to start with some other questions, but um,
Yeah, I just want to recognize the fact that you've really had more than one addiction in your life. There were many addictions in your life, especially when you were out of the church, and it was a real struggle for you. So this food addiction hasn't been the first mountain you've climbed.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've realized in the last several years is that I definitely had a relationship addiction. I was always getting into relationships that were not good for me. And I remember when I started my Bright journey, or excuse me, when I was getting ready to start Bright Line Eating, I had known about it for a while. And I remember feeling like I was breaking up with that boyfriend, the one that wears a leather jacket and he's really cute and he drives a motorcycle. And I knew he wasn't good for me, but it still was really hard. That's what it felt like when I was giving up food was that.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. So how did you find out about bright line eating? And about starting it?
So in 20, I think it was 2021, that's the year my husband and I got married. And after we got married, we were like just going out to eat all the time. We were just packing on the pounds. I was like, this is just not working. I cannot do this. And so there was a lady that I followed on Facebook who was doing this 100 days of no sugar and no flour. And I was like, okay, I need to do that. And the year before, I had done like 10 days of no sugar. And I didn't think I could do anything like that. I mean, I definitely was into not my food a lot, especially like my kids' things and stuff like that. So, anyway, I would. I decided to join this no sugar, no flour challenge for 100 days. And I did it like probably 95%. Like I didn't eat any sweets or any like desserts or anything like that. There was maybe like ketchup in my sugar in my ketchup or something like that. It wasn't. So I did pretty well on that. And I never thought I could do anything like that. So I was really impressed that I did that. And then but she was doing bright line eating, so I was exposed to it. But I was like, that's too much work. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't have time for that. And then she stopped. That challenge ended, and I had like a 2 week break. And it's just like at first you're so good, and then little by little, the other food starts creeping back in. And I decided to do her next round. And so I did it for about 50 days. And at that point I was like, I knew I needed to do more. I knew God was telling me I needed to do this, but I just wasn't quite ready yet. And
Mm.
so I just decided I'm just going to quit everything. That's a great idea, right? So I quit doing everything. And this was right before Thanksgiving, okay? So, I eat a normal Thanksgiving, and then at the beginning of December I got COVID. And I was really, really sick for about 2 weeks. And then I started feeling a little bit better, and I started eating everything in sight, but I was still really, really tired. And so I was just eating and eating. I gained like 10 pounds in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And it was just eye-opening for me. It was like it was what needed to happen. And so I decided that I was going to start bright line eating. And in January, like the week before the 15th of January, I started eating bright, but I hadn't given up the sugar and flour yet. I was weighing and measuring my food. I think I had already signed up for the boot camp. Um, but there were 2 days. So the Thursday that week, I hadn't decided exactly what day I was going to start yet. But on Thursday that week, I went to this local grocery store, and I went into the bakery and bought the largest pastry that I could buy. And I sat in my car and I ate it. And on Thursday, it still tasted good. And then I did the same thing again on Friday. And I was like, that was disgusting. And I don't ever want to do that again. And I'm going to start tomorrow. And so I did. It was January 15th. And I was in because you know, I'm kind of all in or I'm all out. Not that I don't fluctuate a little bit, but I'm either, really in or I'm really not in. And I was like, okay, I'm done messing around. Like I knew God wanted me to do this. I knew it was what he had guided me to. And so I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
So, do you identify as a food addict?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
What are you on the susceptibility
Like a
scale?
10 plus. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And the only thing that
That's,
kept my weight from not ever being a lot higher than it was just pure vanity. Like I probably should have
yeah.
been a lot heavier with than I ever got.
So, what was your highest weight?
Um, my highest weight was like probably 186, I think. That's where I landed after my youngest daughter's 11. So after she was born, That's where I landed. It was about 186. And that's also pivotal. Like that was an important moment because before her, I could do Weight Watchers and I did lots of other things, Slim Fast, and they would work for me, short term until I started going back to the way I was eating before. But after her, I
Yeah.
tried Weight Watchers again and I was not working. And that's when I
Hmm.
looked in the mirror. And so this was 11 years ago. I looked in the mirror and I was like, okay, we're gonna have to become friends. I'm gonna have to be okay with this body that I'm living in. And I always wondered, like, when am I ever gonna get it together? When am I gonna really, I see people losing weight and keeping it off. When's that gonna happen for me? But getting comfortable in my body and in my own skin and being okay where I was at was a big part of being successful when I did start bright line eating, I feel like.
Yeah. And so goal by May. So if that was January, you got to goal by May of that year.
Yes.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you were bright.
Yeah, I've honestly like I've had because it's been almost 4 years now. I've had moments like when eating out has been hard for me and a little bit wobbly, and I've still had, I've had times even within staying bright when I've noticed certain things I'm eating that are triggering my addiction and I'm getting control over that. But I've never cheated. I've never overweighed my food. I've never been like, oh, I'm gonna do 4.5 ounce or 6.5 ounces of fruit or, I've never like eaten any, sugar or flour. Anything if I did, it was an accident. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna have that. So I always,
That's
it
when
was actually really, it felt easy to me because it was just like, all I have to do is just follow this plan. I was not attached to when it was going to happen because I didn't care. I just knew I needed like peace in my life. I didn't want to be controlled by food anymore. Like when you were playing that video, it just brought up so much emotion because I remember just how miserable I was. Like I was constantly comparing myself, my body, like to other people. And I mean, I remember when I was in my early 20s, when I was, when I had my second oldest daughter, just constantly comparing myself to my um, sister-in-law and how skinny she was while she was pregnant. I was constantly thinking about that, constantly thinking about the next, what I was going to eat at my next meal and or what I was going to eat between meals or whatever. It was just exhausting. And so it's when I started Bright Lane Eating, it was like a lot of things that I had been working on over the years, like habits that I had had, they just all clicked in. And having those habit stacks was really, really huge. And I've just did it. I was like, I don't care. I thought, well, maybe by September I'll lose the weight. I don't care when it happens. I'm just gonna focus on the journey.
isn't that the greatest gift you can give yourself is to focus on the bright lines and leave the timeline and the how fast and when is this going to happen to the universe, because you really have been just so trusting of the fabulous plan.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've been so, so proud of you. The other thing is that you have such integrity with your food. When you feel like you're starting to get a little bit off with like cheese or something, eggs or one of your kind of the things that your antennas start
Hmm.
to say, oh, I'm eating a little more eggs or cheese or something like that. You'll reach out to me and say, I'm thinking about these things a little bit more than I should. And they're bright things, but they're worming their way into my peace. And I
Right.
really love the integrity that you have around the bright food.
Yeah.
So good
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
So what has been your relationship? What has been your relationship with the body scale?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I first started, I mean, when you're in that process of losing weight and the weight's coming off, it's really fun, right? But I was really, it was important to me not to be weighing all the time because that's just exhausting. I had done that. So I think Susan recommends like you just weigh once a week. And that's what I did. And I would even, hide the batter. I would take the batteries out of the scale and hide them somewhere so that it was not easy for me to, get on the scale. I had to make it a little more difficult. And but when you weigh your food, you don't have to worry about weighing yourself. It just takes care of itself. Like my husband, this just since July, has started doing bright line eating with me. And he definitely overweighs. He weighs himself like every day, unless we run out of batteries of the scale. I had to steal him yesterday for the food scale. And but he's like, yeah, I step on the scale and every morning my weight is still there's small fluctuations, but it's still the same. And it's true. Like when you weigh your food, you don't have to worry about the scale and you're, you know, in integrity with what you're doing. It just takes care of itself.
Yeah. Tonya, some people think that when you've been bright for what, 4 years, like you have, that you don't have any pull to eating off plan. And yet there is a true fact that big feelings, big emotions, and hunger often feel identical.
Mhm.
And it's hard to break the two apart. Am I feeling hunger, or is this loneliness, fatigue, resentment, anger? And how do you identify whether it's a big emotion or legitimate hunger?
That's a really good question. I think um I don't even really think about it like that just because it's not an option for me to eat
Mm-hmm.
outside of my meals. Like, so really just having strong integrity in your lines will, I think, solves that problem. However, what I've struggled with is, and this happened like a couple of months ago. I was finding myself like eating, eating things that were still bright, but it was lighting up my brain, right? And I was feeling that addiction actively. And I feel like there's still a few things like right now that I know that I need to clean up within my food. I'm aware of it and I know, and I'm working on it. I know what I need to do. Um, but it's I think a lot of it has to do with where's your line at. I catch myself before I get into the ditch. My line, is a lot before I'm breaking my lines. And I think that's what has helped. But I recognize like through talking to you, so I think having someone that you can, talk to about these things is so helpful because through talking to you, I recognized, okay, this is, you know, there's a lot of emotional stuff that's coming up to the surface right now. And that's why I'm struggling. And I need to rein the food back in and get, to where I'm feeling better within it. And then I start feeling better and I start thinking more clearly because it really affects, for me, it affects my cognition. And so just because I'm still bright almost 4 years later doesn't mean it's not a set it and forget it thing. It's still something that I have to pay attention to and really learn to, really be in tune with your body. Like the other night, I will say, um, something I ate for dinner, I feel like normally it doesn't bother me, but it did that night. And I could feel myself being hungry at like 10 o'clock at night. And we were staying up a little bit later, over the holiday. And I was like, I know that I'm not really hungry right now. I ate the same amount of food I always do. So I knew that it was just, you know, emotions or it was just because I had eaten something that was a little bit too sexy and that I was feeling that.
And that's the gift you get when you're bright no matter what. That's the gift, is that immediately you're able to say, oh, no, something's off, but I'm not going to eat till my next meal. You mentioned earlier about your habit stacks, and
Yes.
Susan talks about the sine wave and how the sine wave, when you see it kind of going down, 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 because either the habit stacks aren't being enforced or you've got just some kind of gray lines going on. That sine wave takes a deep dive and affects our bright lines. So, what are the habit stacks that you incorporate for morning and evening that really help your foundation stay strong for you to be bright no matter what?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's been really important to have like a floor and a ceiling. And so, and honestly, like right now, I'm in a place where I haven't been tracking on a habit tracker for a while. I just have my habits that I do, but I can feel the difference. I know that I need to start tracking on a habit tracker again, just because there are certain things that I just know that I need that accountability. And so in the beginning, I did for a long time. I tracked on Habit Tracker. And so prayer in the morning, studying my scriptures, um, I like to do either some stretching or I have these balls. They're called Yamana balls. I think I told you about it, Shawna.
Yeah,
Did you ever try it?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
And so you roll your muscles out like on these you can roll your spine, roll all the muscles out. So like being able to relieve tension. I do that usually in the morning and at night. Um, and that's really helpful. Doing some journaling is really helpful. And just and then in the evening, oh, I'm gonna get it. Hold on. I want to show you something.
okay. Do, do,
So in the
do, do.
evening, I read my like I have a devotional book that I read. This is the one I've been reading for the last couple of years, The Daily Joy.
Mhm.
And then this is my 5 year journal. So this is probably my favorite part of like one of my favorite parts of the habit stack. So I started it January 7th, 2022, and I haven't missed a day. Like sometimes it's just I wrote I'm sick, or I'm on vacation or whatever, but I haven't missed a day. So like how fun is that? Like what's today, November 30th, And so next year on January 7th, I will be starting my 5th year in here. And then the
So
next year,
cool.
I'll be able to buy a new 5 year journal. So I love this. This is one of my favorite habits because I've got a little snapshot of what happened that day. And I learned this from Susan. I mean,
Mhm.
and then it helps build relationships too, because then I can share with my daughter, hey, 2 years ago is when you started crocheting, or, just different things like that. And I love that. That's huge. I'm trying to think what else. Like taking deep breaths, doing some meditation. I like to crochet, so I'll either do that during the day. Like, so having, like I mentioned, the 5 minute habits, that's something that really keeps me grounded is being able to just have something that I can pick up and put down really easily. Like I can pick up a book and read for a few minutes. I can pick up my crocheting and easily see where I stopped and where I need to start again. And those things, they really help a lot. I think having that, because like over the years before I started Brightline, I was, I did my habits, here and there, but I wasn't like really consistent. But when I started Brightline Eating, everything just clicked in, and all my those habit stacks that I've been working on, like I haven't missed a day of doing that. Now sometimes it looks like I say a prayer and I listen to my scriptures if I'm even if I'm being like an overnight doula. When I'm on my way home in the morning, I say a prayer and I listen to my scriptures. Ideally it's longer than that, and I've had times where I was really consistently getting up early in the morning and times where I struggle with that, but it's always there. Like I haven't missed that. And I think that's a big, having that bookending of your day
Mhm.
with God is so huge. Like having, because then I'm connecting with Him in the beginning, I'm connecting with God at the end of the day. And so I'm way more likely to reach around to Him throughout the day when things are feeling hard, that I'm going to lean on Him instead of going to the food, right?
It's the ultimate bookending. Susan talks about bookending, and I
Yes.
love that. That's great. You once told me that reaching maintenance was very anticlimactic. Can you explain why?
Yes, yes. Well, so any other time that I had lost weight, I always got, I think this happens for most people. You get within that last 10 pounds, and that's when you letting loose a little bit and eating more of what you want. And I never quite got where to that place where I met my goal. It always felt elusive to me. So this, like I said earlier, I just focused on the journey. And so it was for me when I hit maintenance, it was like I just started getting really hungry. I was starving. I was like, something was different. It was not the same hunger. And that's how I knew. But then, it was like my daughters and I went to Target and went and bought some new clothes. And that was fun. Like, I remember that day trying on size 6 jeans instead of size 12 jeans. Like, that was super fun. And I enjoyed that. Um, and I would walk by myself in the mirror and I'm like, who is that? Like, it took me a long time. I'm like, I don't know who that is. It was so weird. Um, so, but so really there was that day that I hit maintenance, but it was just another day. Like even there was no confetti that fell down. Even if somebody would have had a party for me, I still would have we would have had to clean up the confetti and then, guess what? The next day I did the same things I did the day before. And so I think a lot of times we have this vision of I'm going to meet this goal and everything's going to be great. Well, if you don't get to where you're feeling pretty good before you get to that goal, it's not going to be any different. You're going to feel the exact same as you did before. Like, even like in my business this year, I've met a lot of really big goals that I've never met before, and they're fun and it's great. But then I just do the same things again the next day. And because God has helped me to really find joy in the journey and find joy in just the everyday, going for walks and doing just being with my family and reading books and, running my business and all the things like taking kids to activities. Like I find joy in those things. And meeting goals is important. It's important for my progression, but it's more about who am I becoming? Why does this
Hmm.
matter for eternity? Because I was just thinking about that yesterday. Like I have some goals that I am resetting. We're hitting the end of the year. I'm thinking about what does next year look like? What goals do I have? And but it's more about like who am I becoming? Who does God want me to become through reaching this goal? Not about like all of a sudden everything's going to be great when I meet the goal, because it doesn't work like that.
No, in fact, I love that because I always heard that we were meant to be queen. We were meant to be human beings. And when we're human doings, we're all checklist and time oriented and so fit on an agenda. In being, we're present and we just soak up all the beauty. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. So great lines by your family.
You're cutting out a little bit. What can you say that again? Something about bright lines with your
Sorry,
family.
yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel supported in your bright lines with your family?
I do actually like my husband has always been really supportive of me in keeping my lines bright. He's like even before he started bright line eating this summer, he would, he was always very supportive, not ever trying to, get me to eat off plan, or he was always supportive of me and that. My kids like to tease me sometimes about it, but they know, like, that I'm not going to eat whatever it is. So, I think they would actually be really upset because they see the stability that I have in being bright. Even if they don't want to eat the way I do, they see that stability in me. And so I feel, yeah, I mean, and honestly, I didn't, it would be hard if like there was somebody in my home trying to sabotage what I was doing. But I've been so solid in my decision and taking it on as my identity of like, this is who I am, this is what I do, that nobody really questions me on it most of the time. And if they do, like, I'm like, you know, sorry. I did have one time a few weeks ago where somebody was like asking me um, multiple times if I wanted something, and I was like, no, thank you. I don't need that. I already ate lunch or whatever. So yeah, I do feel supported.
I love that because it only takes once for you to cave and then all the blocks fall,
Yeah.
and but I love that they're protective of you and that they are honoring your wishes.
Yeah.
So do you feel supported in the Bright Line Eating community? Where do you get your support? Where do you get your strength?
Yeah. Um, Well, honestly, like that's something that I know that I need to get more connected back in with right now. I've had times where I would listen to the vlog, like when I was on my way home from dropping my daughter off at school or at seminary. Um, but I've been trying to stay off my phone more, like and not, doing stuff like that as much. So I forget about that. Right now, for a long time, I did do the boot camp in the beginning and I was very connected in for a long time. And I'm not as much right now. I do have a support group a texting group where we commit our food. So I do that. And that's important. Like, it's probably only been like a few weeks that I started committing my food again. Um, and I could like not committing my food. I was headed down a really bad path that would have eventually ended in me breaking my bright lines, which would be really hard if that happened at this point for me. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
at this point that would feel devastating to me. Um, and so yeah, like that committing my food has been huge. So I'm doing that again and I'm consistent in that. And that makes a big difference having those friends that are doing this with me. But I definitely feel like I need more support. I support a lot of people, but I need more support of people that are further along the path than I am. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I know I need that and I can feel it.
And there's a lot of people in our community that are in similar situations where they're not members of lifers. So they're not getting the daily accountability calls and the coaching calls and the official
Mhm.
Gideon game teams and all that stuff. But and as much as I love that, there are ways for you to be part of a mastermind or an unofficial Gideon game team. And of course, Tuesday night support groups, which started in January, those nights we'll move to a Monday night support group because we felt like even though it's still a family home evening night, so many are having that or shortened Sunday sessions that they're doing their family home evenings on Sunday. And I'm sorry about my internet connection. Sorry about that. But anyway, but starting in January, we're going to start studying the vlogs, some of the best vlogs, and it's from 6 p.m. Pacific, 1 hour, just 1 hour. And so we're hoping that we get more moms and just people that can come and participate because there's such a beautiful bonding experience. Um, Tonya, I'm curious, are you exercising right now? What does your exercise
Okay.
program look like?
Yes, great question. And I want to say, can I share one other thing okay.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I mentioned I came back to church in 2019. 2020 is the year I really started experimenting with not eating sugar and flour. And then 2021, is that right? Or was it 2022? Yeah, 2022 is when I started Brightline. Um, but what I've noticed is like every year since I've started coming back to church, like there's something big that God helps me with. And so, after Brightline eating, then let's see, I wrote my things down. And 2023 is the year I started my podcast, my 5 Minute Habits for Mom podcast. And there were a lot of other big things. But then in 2024 is when I was like, I've been wanting to get in an exercise routine for a while. I was really hit and miss for a long time. And it's really tempting when you first start doing bright line eating to want to work out too, right? But I followed what Susan said. I was like, I'm just going to focus on the food. And it truly does prove to you that weight is all about the food. It really is all about the food. exercise is really important for a lot of other reasons, but it's not a good way to maintain your weight. And so in 2024 is when I started walking. And I did it, if you've ever heard of the book Atomic Habits, I did it Atomic Habits style, which is starting very, very small. So I did 100 days seems to work really well for me. If I can do something for 100 days, then I'm golden to keep going. And so um, I started out the first 2 weeks walking 5 minutes a day, and I would stop myself. I literally only walked 5 minutes a day. It probably took me longer to get my shoes on and off, right? And then I every 2 weeks I would increase it by 5 minutes. So by the end, I was walking 30 minutes a day, and that's what I have kept doing. I haven't been 100%, but I've never missed more than maybe 2 days in a row. And most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, I'm keeping it at 30 minutes a day. And that's even through the winter. We walked
Wow.
through last winter because I figured walking is one of the best habits, right? I can do it. I should be able to walk until I'm really old, until I die. And it's a good habit. It's good for your bones. It's good for your body. And so walking is what my exercise habit right now. And it checks all the boxes, right? It gets me out in nature. It helps my mental health. It gives me that physical exercise. It gives me, like a lot of times I walk with my husband or sometimes a friend, and it's just huge. It makes all the difference. But now I'm starting to feel like I know I need to do some strength exercise. So, but I already have that built in 30 minutes every day. So what I'll do is I'll take from that but with strength stuff, I know I'm going to need a friend. Like I'm going to have to pair that with a friend or either going to a class, or I know that that's something big that I'm going to work on next year. But doing it that way has helped me, develop that habit. So it's been about a year, almost a year and a half of
So
walking. Oh,
smart.
so good. So good.
Yeah, so smart. Because now you can just tack something onto that for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and then build on that. Good job. Okay, we've got just a few more minutes. I'm going to try and do a speed round. We're going to try and
Okay.
get as many questions in as we can. Okay, so
Okay.
just buckle in.
Okay.
Okay, what's your number one tip for being bright when you travel?
Planning ahead. Have it all written out and everything planned out before you leave. You have to do that. And then if like I'm getting ready to go on a trip to the Dominican Republic in February next
I would
year.
agree.
And it's an all-inclusive resort. So I will be connecting with the kitchen staff before I go to find out what they have and, if there's anything that I need to purchase before I go, that I can get that. But planning is huge and being so committed. Like I've heard Susan say this before, like I, I would walk as far as I had to a grocery store or whatever I had to do to make sure that I stay bright. So, but planning is huge.
Good job. What are some of the Bright Line Eating approved foods that were the biggest surprise to you that you really love, that maybe you hadn't even tried before Bright Line Eating?
Mm. Um, well, I didn't used to eat a whole lot of vegetables, and so I like zucchini a lot. Zucchini I eat that pretty much every single day. And another one that was a huge, probably the biggest surprise is um, sweet potatoes. I eat those in my breakfast every day, and I love sweet potatoes in my breakfast. So it's probably the biggest one.
Love that. Did you ever have to have a shift in your thinking of this is what I need to do versus this is what I want to do? Did you ever have that shift, or did you start out knowing this is what you wanted to do?
Um, I think for me, well, without going into my backstory more, because of everything that happened in my life And when I came back to church, I had fallen so far off that when I came back, I had this very strong testimony of knowing that when God asks me to do something, even if I don't want to do it, that I need to do it, and that He'll give me the desire. He will give me the desire to do it, even if it's something that like the human part of me doesn't want to do. So for me, like when I started Brightline, I wrestled with it for a long time, but then I was finally, it was just more of a like, okay, God said you need to do this. And I know when He asked me to do things, even if I don't really like it at first, that eventually it will be something that I enjoy. And my husband and I were talking about this. The decision part of it is the hardest part, I think. Making that
Mhm.
decision, that all-in decision. Once I did that, then it was just follow the plan. But making the decision was really hard.
That leads into the very next question I had for you, which was what was the part that the Lord played in your success in Bright Line Eating?
Yeah. There was a, and I don't think I ever finished this book. I can't, now I don't know if I can remember the name of it, but there was a book. Um, it's a lady, it's the 12 steps, and it's, do you know what I'm talking about?
Deliver me from bondage.
Yes, yes, he did deliver me from bondage. I started reading that book, and that's when I realized, oh, I have a problem. And I remembered that, just that icky, that feeling that I used to have. Um, and but he brought me out of that. Like he knew what I needed. He knew what I needed, um, and he was right. He's always right. He, like I just, I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, okay, I don't really want to do that, but I know you want me to do it, so I'm sure that it'll be good for me and I'll be happier with that. And it's a lot easier for me to, especially doing Brightline, it's a lot easier for me to turn things over to him now,
Yeah,
quicker than I
I
used
love
to.
that. I love that. Okay, I would agree 100%. Okay, let me see. I've got so many other questions. Um, what is one non-scale victory that surprises you the most every day?
Hmm. Um, I think just that it's given me my life back. Like it's given me um my agency back. And I didn't realize
Mhm.
it was gone before, but it definitely was. So being able to actually gain momentum and move forward instead of just feeling like I'm on this, hamster wheel. I feel like I'm actually moving forward in life. Um, and and I have that peace of not being wrapped up in all of the stuff I was before. I don't, and the other thing that's huge is that, like, I don't even, it was weird. And I know that this probably isn't the case for everybody, but for whatever reason, like, I don't even think about that stuff anymore. Like, I don't even look at anybody else and I'm like, oh, I'm not comparing whether I'm skinnier or bigger or
Mm.
whatever. I don't care. It doesn't even occur to me anymore. Um, because I know I'm right where my body needs to be. I know I'm eating exactly the right amount of food that my body needs to survive, and that's it.
Even if you never lost a pound, isn't that like the greatest gift
Yeah.
that one could ever attain?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, last question. If there are any young moms out there
Mm.
with family, what is what would you tell them would be the way to make bright line eating doable in their lives?
Um, I think, well, everybody's situation is different. So taking that into consideration, I think the most important thing is making that decision deep down and like recognizing how imperative it is. My kids weren't little when I started doing this. I know it would have been a lot harder for me to do this when my kids were younger. But it it's so important. Like it gives you that ability to have relationship on a level that I didn't have before. And I still have a lot of room for improvement, right? I'm working on like dealing with my phone right now and having those boundaries that I need with my
Mhm.
phone so I can be really present with someone. But I think the most important thing is making that decision, changing your identity. This is what I do. And then when you make that decision, then God will work in your life. I don't remember the quote, but it's something about like providence will move. Everything will move to be able to help you do what you need to be able to do it. Um, Something that has helped me is that I'm not doing right now, but I want to get back into is preparing, like when I eat, like at night, doing just a couple little things that so that when I go to prepare my breakfast the next morning, it's easier to do that. And then after breakfast, that I prepare my lunch, and after, that maybe I'm preparing and what I want to work towards is in the morning being able to, do some things for dinner to make it easier for dinner. So whatever meal is hardest for you to stay bright at, then I would try to prepare that meal ahead of time so that the decision is already made. But I think making the decision and then doing whatever you need to do to keep that decision is
Mhm.
is huge.
Oh, such good advice. Such advice. Tonya, thank you. Is there anybody, any of the attendees that had a question for Tonya? While people are thinking, I wanted to tell you that you once told me something that I really think is profound, and that is that you said, if I can go without flour and sugar, I can do anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
Beth,
believe that.
oh, Beth, did you have a question? No. But when you told me that, I so profound because our previous selves before Bright Line Eating couldn't imagine living without flour and sugar and eating only 3 times a day. And yet here we are doing it every day for 9, whatever years. And it's never been better. And what an example you are. Yeah, love it. Okay, we've got two questions. We'll
Okay.
start with Beth.
Okay, I do have a question that came up in my mind. I mean, it's the holiday season and not everybody around you is doing bright line eating, although your husband is, which is really awesome and exciting. But what do you do? Like, do you get resistance when you go to, award thing or a party or get gathering with friends? Like, do you get any resistance? And what do you do when you get resistance?
I think that I have enough of a nobody really ever says anything to me. I think I have enough of like that have taken this on as my identity that people might question maybe like, oh, that usually people are like, oh, if I bring my own food, they're like, oh, that looks really good. So I don't usually have that. I think it's just because of the way I come across, like people know like this is what she's doing. Like they're not trying to convince me to eat other
So you're
things.
pretty upfront about it, right? I mean,
I
you're pretty
am,
like,
and
here's my
I
food. I brought it. You're not trying to hide it. You're not
no,
embarrassed at all.
I don't care what anybody else thinks. And what I've
So it's
also
probably,
found is
yeah,
that they don't really care either. And if somebody does care enough to try to get me to eat something or whatever, that's about them. It has nothing to do with me. So,
love that. Thank you. It's great.
Great question, Beth. Wendy.
Yeah, I'm a huge podcaster. So I went ahead
yeah.
and while you're talking, I looked up your podcast and then I looked up the Latter Day Light one that you're on. And I can't wait to listen. And so my question for you is I'm not quite sure how did you come back to the church and that led you to your recovery and bright line eating, or did it all happen at the same time? I just wondered what the relationship is between getting clean and sober with your food and coming back to the church, or did it happen the other way around or at the same time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I came back to the church first. So in 2019 is when I came back to church. And then it was 2022 when I started Bright Line Eating. So that was, I definitely came back to the church first. And the other thing that I don't think I mentioned this is that, I recognized from the very beginning that this was a food addiction, which made it different than anything else I'd ever done before in other weight loss things I had tried to do. And I started going to the church's 12-step program. So I did that for probably a few months. I know I went through the program at least once. And then I realized, oh, I need the family support group because I've always had somebody in my life with an addiction my whole life. So codependency for me is what's underneath my addiction. So I go to the family support group, and that is what has, a big part of the helping me has been that program.
Great question, Wendy.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you. Tonya, our hour's up, and what a gift you have given us. I just am so excited to share you with everybody in our community. This will be recorded for many other people to listen, and it'll be in for many, many years. And I hold such a special place in my heart for you, and just so pleased with what a light you are to bright line eating as well as just in our world. So yeah, that you would like to share.
Thank you so much, Shawna. I really appreciate you having me here. And I seriously, I appreciate you more than you know. Like, I couldn't have done this without you. You've been a huge, huge support to me. And like, there have been so many messages you've sent me that just remind me of heaven. Like, I just feel like I'm getting that message from God and that I needed that support and strength that I needed in that moment. So you've been an integral part of this journey for me, and I am so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful for Susan and this program. Like, it's changed everything for me, changed my life. It's been huge. I've always remember I said earlier that I wondered when it was going to be my turn, right? And I've had my turn. Like, I was able, I got remarried to a wonderful man. I've been able to do bright line eating. I'm now having success in my business like I never had before. And they have all built, it all starts with God. He's number one, and He's guided me to all these other beautiful things. And it's just helping me no matter what's going on, even when things are really hard, like keeping my lines keeps me grounded. It's not like I'm not even tempted to break my lines. I'm like, oh, that's a comfort to me when things are really hard. So I'm just so grateful for you and for this whole program. So thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tonya. Big hugs. And until next month or whenever we do another side by side, take care.